today we will implement k-means from the scratch, and the idea is that we will just use some extra packages and modules that already exist, but conceptually the k-means we will implement from the scratch, and at some moment after we accomplish this part, we will switch to some particular implementations of k-means, and we will use it for the following task. So today I'll share with you the link to the website which we will follow. I'll put it to the Telegram. So yeah, this is a page, and let's go over a little bit just of the plan. In the beginning, we will set up the environment. Basically, you can think about environment that this is a, let's say that we live in the house, right? And in house, usually we have multiple rooms, and usually rooms, they serve for particular purpose. For example, in the bedroom, we sleep, right? In the kitchen, we cook the meal. And with environments, I think in my mind it's somewhat similar. We can create different environments in Python, and we will store different packages inside of these environments. In this case, they will not interact with packages in another environments, and it's very useful, especially when you're trying to use different version of packages. It's better to set up the environment and use it. So we will start with creating the environment, then we will implement the k-means. So this is a visual explanation about what does k-means mean. The idea is that we will work with a two-dimensional space in the beginning, that we have points scattered over the plane, and the idea is that we want to clusterize our data. In this case, we select 3 clusters, just like there is a separate discussion about how to determine how many clusters you want to have for your data. In this case, let's say that we visually explored. There is a step in data analysis which is called like exploratory data analysis. You're supposed to plot different charts, graphs, and try to understand what does it mean. So let's say that we just used our 2D points, we plotted, and now we know that there are supposed to be 3 clusters. And this is a explanation how the k-means work, the method which we will implement. So we randomly select 3 points from our set of points. So you can see we selected 3 random one, and by color here we just represent different clusters. And the idea next is like to take each point from our data one by one and measure the distance to 3 randomly selected centers of our clusters. So we measure the distance, and in this case you can see that the distance to the blue center is less than to the others, and because of that we will just assign the tag to this point that it belongs to the blue cluster. So you can see it will change the color, and then we will repeat this procedure for all our points. So let's wait a little bit while it's like accomplished. And it's going to be the first round of approach of our method. K-means actually also called expectation maximization algorithm. That means that there is like 2 steps. One is like so in our case, we assign, for example, each point to the cluster, and now you can see we accomplished the task. It's like 1 step. We performed clustering. Now each point belongs to particular cluster, right? But you can see that the clustering itself probably not the best, right? And because of that, in k-means there is another step where we take each cluster that we identified. So in this case, we took, for example, red cluster, all points from the red cluster, and we recalculate the center of the cluster. We take into account all the points that we have, and we measure the centroid of the cluster. So basically we measured centroid for red, blue, and green. You can see that the center was changed before we measured the distance to the actual point that was somewhere here. But now the center was changed for all clusters. And now we just need to redo the procedure. We will unlabel all points. So now we assume that they're like again blank, and we repeat the procedure. We measure the distance from each point to our new centers, and that's it. So it's done. In this case, if we try to repeat steps again, we will see that the labels unchanged. And this is what we will implement. After that, we will use example of the image. So you can take any image that you like, and the idea is that we will try to fetch the color palette from the image. Yeah, at some moment you can see that I was just like working in R, and I found out that there is a package which is called Ghibli R, or just Ghibli. And basically this is a package where you can find a lot of different color palettes from the Ghibli studio. If you hater of the Ghibli studio, please use whatever image that you like. But the idea is that you can find here a lot of different palettes that were taken from the different movies. And then you can use them inside of the R to color grade your data points. And I was like, okay, I want to do something similar. Here you can see that they have this example. In their case, the image a little bit more vivid. I took not the best probably reference in the internet, because the same image supposed to be, the color should be a little bit different. But we will take the image and we will use clustering for the image in the same way. So, but we will have points not in 2-dimensional space, but in 3-dimensional space. And then we can just calculate the clusters. So you can specify how many clusters you want. In this case, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clusters. And we will identify the centers for each cluster. And the center represents the color from our color palette. And then in the end, we will have some example about the non-negative matrix factorization. But
we don't see your screen.
Okay, guys. It was very fun. Okay. Never mind. But probably you could see it in the web page. Okay, yeah. My bad, guys. Let's just start, and we will see everything all together. So I'll just create a folder. Let's call it in the same way. And today, since I'm just like I wanna relax, I will use Visual Studio Code. Probably it's gonna help me a lot, but never mind. That's fine for today's lesson. Okay. So we want to create a new environment first. You just need to follow the example, like the comments that you can find in on the web page. So right now you see, right, my screen, everything fine?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. But at least I recorded it. Yeah, you know, guys, so basically for me it's usually I need to wake up at 7 a.m. and lesson starts at 8 a.m. and usually I don't do something like that. Usually I wake up later, and because of that I have this like brain fog, brain lag. So not very good for me. Yeah, we want to create a virtual environment. For this we need to use particular package in Python which is called venv, which stands for virtual environment. And we just need to specify the name of virtual environment. I will do it in the same way, or maybe, yeah, in the same way as it's on the web page. So you can see this is a command, python-m venv, and here we specifying that inside of current folder, I want to create my virtual environment, which is called venv-utils. So after I press enter, you can see that the new folder is appeared, and we created a virtual environment. Now I need to activate it. For this, on Linux and Mac OS, I will use source venv-utils being activated. On Windows, there is a particular command. You can find it on the web page. So let's just execute it, and you can see that my shell changed. Now it's saying that we are inside of the virtual environment, which is called vnfutils. And after that, we can install all our packages, which we will use in Python. For that, we will use pip. It's like package installer program or doesn't matter. So this is basically the program which will help us to install all necessary packages that we will use today. And then we just need to specify all the names of them. So it's like numpy for numerical Python, pandas for data analysis, based on the data frames, plot9 for plotting, scikit-learn, matplotlib, jupyterlab, scikit-image. In my case, probably I don't need jupyterlab, but you can install it. So let's just hit enter, and we will wait until the installation is done. And all these packages, they will be installed specifically in this virtual environment. And if you deactivate the virtual environment, you will not have access to all these packages. And this is a feature that you can separate your work into different virtual environments, and they will not interact with each other. And it's very important sometimes, because you can find in internet, let's say, some package which was written a while ago and it's not maintained anymore, and it was written for particular Python version or based on some other libraries. And in this case, usually it's tricky to install it properly. And for this, it's better to use the virtual environments, create them, and it's gonna be much easier. So yeah, guys, let's just watch one more time briefly the explanations that I was describing. We have our points. We select randomly centers from the really existing points on the 2D plane. And then for each point, we measure the distance to each center that we identified or specified in the beginning. And based on this, we assign the cluster for each point. And then after the first step, we got our clustering result. And as you can see, it's not perfect. And basically, we can improve it by recalculating the centroid of each cluster. So you can see that we recalculated the centroid. And now on the next step, each centroid will be used as an anchor. We will measure the distance from each data point to this new anchor point, and we will reassign labels for our clustering. And as you can see, in this particular case, 2 steps is enough, because after this one, we will not change in any way labels. So this is a k-means visualization. And now we just want to create a new file. I'll call it naive k-means. And for this particular lesson, I will create IPYNB, which stands for IPython notebook. It's like in data analysis, people very love using these notebooks. And inside of this file, we can create now Markdown cell. Markdown is particular way to write edited text. You can specify their equations and a lot of different things. Very handful. And in this case, you can add some text description to your code, that you explain something, and then you have code. It's basically the cell where we will specify particular code, and we will be able to execute it. So let's create a new cell here in Visual Studio Code. Also, in your case, if you installed everything and if you don't have the Visual Studio Code, in this case, you can run jupyterlab, since we installed it. It will open the page in the web browser, and it's very similar, so that you can create a file, IPython notebook, and then you will have the same type of the interface. In my case, I'm using Visual Studio Code. If you don't have anything, guys, it's okay. Just try to look what we are doing. If you have any questions, you are very welcome to ask them. And then I just very encourage your it's very nice if you would try to do something yourself in the end. In case if you don't have Visual Studio Code or Jupyter notebook today. So we just need to import all our packages. Let's do it. I will just copy paste. You can see that I need to select the kernel. I will select Python environments, and I will use VNFutils, which is based inside of this folder. You can see that I have a lot of different environments. Basically, I'm using the Mamba package manager, and it allows to create a new environments. In my case, I have a lot of them, but we need to use this one, VNFutils, basically the one which is inside of our current working directory. So I clicked now, so the environment was changed. Python now can highlight the syntax for me, and for just like to execute the cell, I will press Shift plus Enter. So I pressed it. Now you can see that it's done. There is a sign that this particular part was executed. Now let's just copy paste the full statements that we have, and I'll just briefly go over to describe what does it mean. So in the beginning we create our data set. For this we are using the make blobs function from the sklearn datasets. We're saying that we want to have 100 points. The blobs should be organized in the way that we have 3 centers and number of features 2. Also we can specify random state to be able to reproduce the same results over and over again in case if we rerun our program multiple times. This statement is not necessary in reality because I believe by default X organized in the way that it's like scaled. But here we just trying to scale the data. We subtract from each column the mean of the column, and then we divide by the standard deviation. It's like basically scaling of the data. After that, the mean of the values inside of the column is 0 and standard deviation is 1. Then we create a data frame, and then we assign, I believe we can just split it, and let's write x hat, just like to check it out. So you can see that we created our data, we called columns x1, x2, and then we created a new column, and we just assigned 0 cluster as a label for each point that we have. And this is a head. We just got first 5 entries of our data frame. You can use more, you can get more, and in total we have 100. Then we create a function which is called init centers, and it does exactly what we saw on the video. So we have our data frame X, we can specify how many centers we want to choose, and then we simply select randomly this amount of points from our data. So from 0 up to, so shape 0, it's shape of our data frame. Data frame has 2 dimensions usually. It's like number of rows, number of columns. Very simple to the one that we have seen in case of the 2-dimensional list. So, and we can access amount of rows by using shape 0, and if you want to get the shape like number of columns, you can pass 1 here, because X shape, it's simply a tuple. We have number of rows, number of columns stored in this particular attribute of our object X. And because of that, we just specifying that we want to randomly select k number of rows from our column. And then we return these points. This is like iLoc, it's like index location. We can specify indexes and return just particular rows from our data frame. So here you can see we specified random seed. This operation is done simply to fix the seed, and then if you rerun your program, you will get reproducible results. If you don't do this, results will be different. So here we identified our centers, we randomly select them, and then for these centers we will assign cluster different label. So as you remember, in the beginning we assigned for everything 0, now we will assign now we will assign 1, 2, 3 for particular rows inside of our data frame. Yeah, then we have the step which is called find cluster, and how it works, we pass data frame X and we pass to this function our centers that we randomly selected. And then we have just XY coordinates from the X data frame, and the same we have for B. We just take the coordinates of all our points and coordinates of the centers. So this is a very tricky part, but I just hope that you will believe me that this operation, so I really suggest you to start working with NumPy, just like to look how it's organized, because it's heavily used in data analysis. In this case, we just measure the distance from all our points in X to the centers. And this is basically the operation that you can see. We have NP's square root, which is like we calculate square root. After we subtract X, Y coordinates of centers from X, Y coordinates of the data points in X, we calculate the square of these values, and then we just like use the sum of them to calculate the actual distance. And then for each point in our X, we will assign the proper label based on the distance, which is like the minimum distance to particular center. So, and then we have that we reassign, we can split this cell one more time, and let's check head again of X. Now you can see that after we use the find cluster function with centers that we identified, so centers, let's just like be a little bit more explicit. The first step, we identified random points from our data frame. So you can see this is the index of these points, 37, 12, 72. This is our points. We assigned cluster 1, 2, 3 to these points. And then we used these centers to identify the cluster for each point. And now you can see instead of 0, we have particular clusters inside of our data. We can print it right away here. So let's print our data. For this, I will use the package which is called plot9. It mimics the ggplot from the R. And since I really love the ggplot, I use this one. But I know that maybe the best way is to learn, for example, the Seaborn, or familiarize yourself with the matplotlib packages, because it's not, sometimes it cannot perform all operations that you can perform using other packages. But the syntax is very simple, in case if you already faced with that in the R. So here we want to use ggplot function. We need to specify the data, then we need to provide the mapping, what will be used as the X coordinates, Y coordinates, and what we want to use as a cluster. And then we have points. We will plot points. This is a point of our data X. Then we will plot points of our centers. And then there are some like themes added here. So in case if we run it, we will see the result. Basically, you can see that we have this representation of the data, slightly different from the one that we saw on the video, but exactly the same as we saw it on the illustrations on the web page. So this is our clustering after the one step. We identified centers, so this is our centers, this point, and this point. And then we measure the distance from each point, unlabeled point, to the centers, and based on this we assign the cluster. So this is the first iteration of our step. And now we can do the following step, which is we will use update centers function because we need to update our centers. As we saw in the video, we just need to recalculate the coordinates of our new centers, and this function does it by using so we group each cluster points into sub data frame, and then we calculate the mean of the coordinates, and based on this we will get a new centers. Yeah. And then we have while true loop. This in real case scenario is not ideal because sometimes it can take a lot of iterations to stabilize the results of the clustering. In our case, it's very simple, and we know that at some moment it's supposed to converge, that labels will not be changed anymore. But in real case scenario, it's not guaranteed, and because of that, usually people provide one extra argument, and in case if the centroid didn't go far away from previous location, then you can say that, okay, my clustering is not changing a lot, I will just stop at this particular step. Or also you can specify how many iterations, the limit for number of iterations for your clustering. In our case, we are like, it's naive implementation, and basically we will just use while true. We calculate all clusters. We will store this information in x.cluster, and then we will find new cluster ID by using the same function find cluster. But as you can see, we updated our centers, and then we need to update centers again because we just like added more steps. And in case if labels of previous step are the same to the labels from the current step, we will just break the loop. And that's it. This is the implementation of the k-means naive. So, and if we run it, you can see that we resolve the task. Very simple in my mind. But guys, if you have any questions, now please just ask them. Okay. So in this case, I'll just assume that I did a great job, but if not, yeah, please just let me know. So that's it. We resolved the task. So it's the clustering resolved. Now we know how to perform like basic clustering of the data. As you can see, in this case, we had a two-dimensional set of points, right? But in general, it could be arbitrary multi-dimensional space. You have multi-dimensional space, then you specify random points there, for example, 100 dimensions. You just randomly select in the same way 3 points, and then the distance equation is exactly the same. You need like just to subtract the coordinates from one point to another, then calculate the square of them, sum them up, and then take the square root. It's like a very known theorem from the school. Yeah. And now let's just try to use it in real life example. I will create a new notebook. I will call it like color palette.ipynb. And now let's create a code. This one I will close. I don't need it. We just need to save the image. So I'll just download the image. So you can see I just like downloaded it. I believe that it's done. Let me just check that it's indeed okay. And now I just want to copy this image and put it to the current working directory. So in my case, it's something like that. So yeah, I just copied the image and put it to current working directory so we can open it. It's our image from the Spirited Away. Yeah, and now we want to calculate the color palette, identify the color palette for this image. And it's very simple. we will just import all packages. In our case, we will use NumPy, matplotlib, skimage. It's a particular package which allows us to read images inside of the Python. Also, there are like a lot of extra functionality to convert color spaces. And also we will use the mini batch k-means implementation from sklearn cluster. It's somewhat similar to k-means. The idea is similar, but in this case you split your data into batches, and because of that you can use multi-core processors to speed up the time, like to speed up the process and use less amount of time when you trying to measure the clusters, to identify clusters. So let's execute it. Then there is a representation of the image. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. In case if you have a very good magnifier, you can just like take it and direct it to the screen, to the one that you're like looking right now. And you will see that your screen composed of these like tiny elements, which is called physical pixels. You can see that you have like a blue, LED there, green, red, blue, green, red. And the combination of the glowing of these particular elements can produce the whole spectrum of the colors that we see. Like from red, green, blue, all of them. Purple, yellow, just like the matter of which of them are glowing at the moment. And then you have also the height of the image and width. And in each particular case, we will just combine all these three physical elements into one when we working with the image inside of the Python. And this is an example. So here we read our image, which is like image read by IO. The data stored in a different location. It's stored right inside of the current working directory, and the name is not spirited away, but 400698. So let's run it. And as you can see, so the image size is like 1080 by 1920, and for each position we have three values, which is the red, green, blue values of the image. So basically it's saying that in this particular location, red should be glowing at this intensity, green should be glowing at particular intensity. Yeah, here we have the representation. So in case if you have 255.00, it's pure red color. If we have like 000, then it means that nothing is glowing and intensity for each color is 0 in this particular location, which is black. And in case if we have 255 for all three colors, it means that this is a white color. And this is a particular implementation where we have the range from 0 to 255. Sometimes also we can convert image to the float image. In this case, the intensity will be represented not as an integer number from the range of 0 to 255, but as a float number from 0 to 1. But there are some like caveats about what is better, what is like supposed to use. In case if you work a lot with images, you will definitely face with all troubles and problems. Yeah. Let's just display our image inside of the Python. For that, we will use the plot module from the matplotlib. And then we will just say that, okay, I want to create a figure. Figure is like as a canvas in our case. And the size of the canvas is like, the width is 10 and height is 5. And then we will just use image show function from the plot, from the pyplot module. And GCA axis off means get current axis function, and then we want to disable axis for our image. And this is a image, and we displayed it inside of the Python. So you can see this is a result of our image. Now we want to clusterize the data. So let's go back and let's just play around. As I said, the image composed from the three colors: red, green, blue, and we can like just display each particular color by splitting the data. The shape of our data is height, width, number of colors. Let's just take each particular color spectrum, red, green, blue, and let's just represent it. And we can specify the CMap argument inside of the image show, and we will say that, okay, if it's like first color channel, we want to use red's color map, then greens, blues. And now when we done it, you can see this is a representation of our image splitted by the color. And in this case, you can see if we have particular space where the red is high, green is high, blue is high, in general, or like in the end, it converts to the white color, or like something which is like bright gray close to white. As you can see, the sky is like very reddish, very greenish, and very bluish, and because of that the sky is like white. Okay, so now what we want to do is just to convert our data to the proper format that can be clusterized using the k-means. Before, you saw that we used two-dimensional structure. It was like 2D points. In our case, we have like multi-dimensional array. It's like we have a height, width, color. Now we just need to somehow reshape the data in the way that we can utilize it. And as you can see, so these two coordinates, they represent just the location of particular pixel. And for clustering, we don't need to use it. You can use it, but in our particular case, we don't need it. We just need like to representation of the point in the RGB space, in the color space. And then we can use it to clusterize the data. So basically, we want to have not height by width, but just like all the points, which is like h multiplied by w. And to do that, we will use the following code, which is like, I want to get the flat image. To do this, we will reshape our data. This is particular function inside of the NumPy, which allows us to reshape the data. Also, we will convert the RGB color space to the lab color space, because like human interpretation of colors is different when we can measure the distance inside of the RGB space, but inside of the RGB space, the distances between of colors not exactly matching our perception of the real world, how we see the real world. And in this case, it's better to convert the image to the lab space, where the distances between the colors will be more closer to our interpretation of the colors. Let's just perform it, and you can see we measured. Now we have the data which is represented as a point and just like intensity of the pixels. So in case if we multiply 1080 by 92, we exactly get the number of points that we got inside of the flat image. Now we can just say that, okay, I want to clusterize my data into 7 different clusters, and for that we will use mini batch k-means. As you can see, we just need to pass number of clusters, random state, number of initializations, and batch size. It's like basically into how large pieces will be data splitted for the clustering. Let's just run it. KMFit will fit the k-means clustering algorithm based on our image. So let's just run it, and you can see that we got the result. This is the parameters of our mini batch k-means. We have 7 clusters. The method that we used is written in C++, number of iterations. So it's like basically some default information. And now let's just calculate our palette. As you can see, inside of the KM object, we have cluster centers. This is the colors of our image. inside of the lab space. So, and this is each particular color that we have. So it's like first color, second color. And now in case if we create a palette, so here I create a palette as a squares. Basically I want to create 100 by 100 pixels multiplied by number of clusters the image, so like a canvas for our RGB image, and then simply fill the colors of each particular square. So let's do it, and now we can display it. So let's just display the colors that we identified, and this is a color palette. This is a real world example of how you can use the clustering in everyday life. And then so you can maybe even try to monetize it. Let's just try to check some examples. I'll try to find them and show it to you. So yeah, after that you can create, for example, something like that. You can create an app where people can upload the images from the movies, for example, and try to get the color palette. So this is a movie which is called probably Rabbit Jojo or something like that. And then yeah, for each particular movie you can identify colors. And for some of you it would be like, or could be boring. You're like, okay, I don't worry about colors. But for the filmmaker, the person who is like trying to elevate skills of the color grading, it's very important, because the combination of colors really affect the way how you see the movie. And it's not just for the movies, it's like in general. For example, if you want to put some interior parts inside of your house, it's also better to know what is like a nice way to match all these colors together. And yeah, and then there are some particular cases that on Amazon, for example, you can find that there are like posters, which is like basically built on the idea of the color palette from particular scenes. Yep. So, and also what we can do now, next step, it's like to clusterize the image that we had. So we will convert each particular image from our original image to the closest center of the clustering. So this is the result. We calculated the clustered image. Basically, for each point inside of our data, we converted it to the closest center. And this is an example that you can compress your data. So you don't need to store all the colors. In this case, we got 7 clusters. So we identified major 7 clusters, and we replaced our image representation. Now it's like can be compressed, stored in this way. So that's it about the clustering, guys. And if you have any questions, then yeah, again, you are very welcome to ask them. Okay, probably no. Yeah, just like one comment that you can substitute this data by anything. In our case, we had just like image, but as you can see, it's represented as a numerical matrix. You can put any type of the data here, and it will work perfectly. So it can be matrix of gene expression data, matrix of I don't know, like anything. So you just can plug it and find the clusters. And in single cell data, it's like very heavily used when you try to identify different cell type populations. You usually start from the raw matrix, then you use clustering, you identify clusters. There is some differences just in the way which clustering is used, but anyway, it can be done. Now let's just take a look on another example. It's related to the non-negative matrix factorization, and just simply why I am like taking some images as an example and working with images. It's simply because with images we can right away see what the method does. With, for example, gene expression data, or there are like some type of the data where it's not very kind of clear. So you did something, you identify something, but you're like, okay, what have I done? What was the result? What the cluster means? What the center of the cluster means? With images is like very black and white. So you right away get the idea of the method and how it works. And since the images is like also the matrices of the values, you can do it in this way. So now here we have the example. So we have two images, right? And I am like asking you guys, what is the difference between these two images? So, do you have any ideas? And just briefly by looking with eyes, I'm not sure that it's possible to understand that there is something hidden inside of it. And then there is approach. There are like a spectrum of approaches which is used for the source separation. In this case, we have two images, but then there is some source of the information which is like hidden. And we will try to identify it. And this is also very heavily used in the, for example, bulk RNA-seq data when you want to deconvolve signatures of different cell types. Since in bulk RNA-seq, usually you meshed everything into one like one kind of material object, and then you sequence it. It can contain like gene expression from different type of the cells, and sometimes you want to deconvolve it and to understand what are the particular signals. So in this case, we have these two images, and let's find out what's hidden inside of these images. So you can go by the link, and you should be able to download these pictures. So I'll download each of them separately. I don't want to bother myself with compressed files, and let's just simply copy paste them to our current directory. So it's pick 1 and pick 2. So we have our two pictures here. So I don't know, if you will switch back and forth very fast, probably you will identify that there is some something hidden inside of it. Well, let's create a new file. I'll call it non-negative matrix factorization, NMF, IPy Y and B. And for this case, we will just simply copy paste everything right away. You can then spend some time by looking at the code. So this is we just import all our packages that we will use. Then we have image 1, image 2. Let's just display them. Why it's stacked? Okay, let's wait a bit. Yeah, while it's loading, let's just check the idea of non-negative matrix factorization. Non-negative matrix factorization takes matrix V, and in case if we know that something is like hidden there, we can try to factorize it into two matrices, which is like basically matrix W and matrix H. As you can see, so dimensions of these matrices along one of the directions is lower, so we have the same amount of rows but less number of columns. And in this case, we have this amount of rows and the same amount of columns as we had in the original data. And this is a very cool trick because you can identify matrix W, which is stored the pure signals that are hidden inside of the matrix V. And H is just simply the matrix of the combination, how you should combine your pure signals to get the data, to get the result that you had before. What's happened with my... Okay, so yeah, this is our... Okay. I need to fix the passes. So yeah, this is our images. alongside to each other. And now we will use this approach. We will decompose our images. Yeah. In this particular case, I will convert images to grayscale first. So I don't need colors here. And I just like converted it to the grayscale image. In this case, we have simply just like 2D arrays for each image. And then what we can do, we can implement the NMF list. In this case, we will store some intermediate results of our NMF algorithm. These equations are taken from the original paper where the non-negative matrix factorization was described. You can also take a look on it. So this is our function. And then we just stack our images. We take the flat representation of our image. It's going to be one dimension vector. We stack them next to each other. And now we want to calculate the NMF. So let's run it. It will take some time to process. It's not like super fast because it's implemented by me, not by the well-known packages. So because of that, it takes time. And while it takes time, let's just go back and let's visualize our results. I will just prepare the code. So here we have the we want to create a figure, put two images next to each other, and then we will update it using the animation package inside of the matplotlib. In this case, we need to specify update function. And let's just save the result. So now we just need to wait. And then we will get the result. So here I just showing the example. So as you can see, in these images, there was like another one hidden. So which is like Starry Night. Starry Night was hidden inside of the two images that we had. As you can see in the beginning, we have this like mixture of two signals, and NMF, when we do this iteration, it tries to deconvolve or to separate the pure signals that we had. And this is the result. So you can identify sources, pure sources inside of your data. And there are definitely examples of NMF inside of the for the biological data. Let me just find some examples in case I can do it. Somehow I cannot find right away. But let's just check what kind of examples they have. So yeah, here you can see that so this is a gene expression data, original one. And as you can see, you have experiments. And then you can deconvolve it, or not deconvolve, but separate, factorize it into two matrices, W and H. So you can see that this is your genes. And some experiments could be similar to each other. And in this case, you can just identify some pure signals inside of all these experiments. So this is, for example, pure signal of the one experiment, meta experiment 1. And then you know how to get any type of the experiment that you had in original data by simply multiplying the matrices. And this is about this part about like why matrix multiplication is important. That to understand what does it mean, you need to know about matrix multiplication. I mean, like, to understand like in what is like under the hood of the method. that you take the row from basis experiments, you multiply it by this matrix, and you get the final result. So we got calculated, we calculated our NMF list, and now we can just create animation of our result. So let's just save it to the animation GIF file. So it will take some time too. But that's it. Yeah, also in the end, here we have explanation about how the original data was created. So we had Starry Night and the Scream pictures, and then I just took small amount of the proportion of the Starry Night, I mixed it up with the Scream picture, and because of that it's not very visible in the original image, that there is just like 2% of the Starry Night was added to the Scream in this particular case, and 9% of the Starry Night was added to this image. But it's hidden, and when we used the non-negative matrix factorization, we were able to identify this particular image inside of the one that we used. So yeah, our animation is saved. Now we can open it, and you can see, so in the beginning we have this like dirty signals, but with time we get better and better results. It's not perfect anyway, so yeah, Starry Night is not perfectly recovered, but since we didn't have like a huge source there, for this particular case, I think it's like very decent result of the non-negative matrix factorization for real case scenario. So yeah, guys, and take away from this lesson, in my mind, that sometimes it's better to work with images because they give us the right away the visual understanding of the methods. You can right away see what is the result. And also another one is like that it's better to try to find out some tasks that you like in life, something that you're passionate about, and then try to solve tasks related to this topic using the Python. It's a very nice way to learn the programming, in my mind, that you can, okay, I want like to solve this task, what should I do? Then you're like going to all these different packages and modules that exist. You're trying to understand, do they have the particular implementation that you need to use in your case? And that's it. So yeah, that's it for today. And in case if you have any questions, then please ask me. So next week we will not have lesson because I will be out of town, and we will find some time to replace the missed lesson. I'll post about it to the Telegram channel, but yeah, so that's it.